Nier Automata and gas station burritos sound like they would have nothing in common. As I watched the mustachioed master behind the counter deftly pile carne asada, beans, rice, and 4 kinds of salsa into a wondrous burrito on a recent lunch break, however, I couldn't help but think of Yoko Taro's latest dystopian concoction. See, Nier Automata is the perfect example of a product that is the sum of many parts. One moment it has you laying fire in a mechanical suit like a 1990s shmup shooter. The next moment you're stringing light and heavy melee combos via blades or even your fists within tight corridors. And that's before its open world mechanics even enter the fray. It's like Macross, Transformers, Bayonetta, Panzer Dragoon, Salamander, and Xenoblade had a bacchanal and gave birth to some unholy yet surprisingly well-adjusted love child. I say that because mixing various genres into one game sounds like a recipe for dysfunctional disaster, or at least mediocrity. Like the loaded burrito I got from a small corner inside this one gas station, however, Nier Automata's various ingredients seamlessly combine into one delectable dish. And it was really good. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I have never played Drakengard or the original Nier game. This makes Nier Automata my first venture into this particular gaming universe. I also did not read any articles or spoilers about this game before playing it. As a result, I was dumbfounded by Automata's genre hopping as I started playing the game. Confusion, however, quickly gave way to excitement as I found myself switching between various gaming mechanics that practically defined my history as a gamer. If you were weaned on a steady diet of Japanese games during your formative years as a video game player, Automata will feel like a blast from your gaming past. It even gives you the option to switch to Japanese voice acting if that's your cup of tea. Pun so totally intended. And the music has a modern Japanese quality to it as well. Set in the world where machines have driven humans literally out of the planet, the game centers on female android Yorha No. 2 Model B, also known as 2B for short. 2B is one of several androids tasked by humanity of fighting the machines and reclaiming the Earth from its mechanical invaders. As part of her duties, 2B is sent to the surface with her partner A2, where they undertake various missions while also lending aid to the remnants of the human resistance movement. The story is interesting in its own right as it tackles with themes like self-identity, friendship, and sacrifices made in the midst of impossible odds. It's also a pretty chunky one thanks to a plethora of endings you can go through. The game starts out with a very action-packed sequence that has you switching between various shooting modes as well as 2D and 3D style action. The various sequences feel quite good individually but also effortlessly transition between each other, leading to an experience that feels fresh and never repetitive. Shooting sequences, for example, can include overhead and side-scrolling portions, and even twin-stick mechanics at certain parts. They don't reach bullet hell levels of difficulty, but they're still fun if you like that genre. Martial combat, meanwhile, switches between a behind-the-back 3D view as well as occasional 2D style action where you can use your fists or a variety of melee weapons to string combos against enemies. For fans of Devil May Cry or Bayonetta, you also get some long-range firepower in the form of pods that float next to you and can be triggered via a dedicated button. That means you can slash and shoot foes at the same time, which can be pretty wild once things get hot and hectic. It definitely requires some multitasking capability to be able to do both competently unless you're playing in easy mode. You also have access to a dash move that, if done at the last second, lets you phase out and avoid heavy damage. Depending on the difficulty level you're playing, you can lock onto foes as well. Although matches against peons can be fun, boss fights in this game are a calorie-filled treat, featuring the kind of over-the-top treatment that Platinum is known for. Sometimes it feels like you're punching tornadoes and actually winning. Action, however, isn't Automata's only calling card. After going through the kinetic opening chapter, the pace slows down as you're introduced to the game's open world portion. This part will feel familiar to folks who have played games like Xenoblade Chronicles, for example, as you take on various quests and set out on the field to gather materials, fight foes, and fish. You can't call yourself a self-respecting Japanese action RPG after all if you do not have the option to cast bait. Although the open world segments retain the 3D action from earlier sequences, you also now get the option for progression, including installing new chips, acquiring new weapons, and also equipping more pods. Chips, for example, upgrade your android body, allowing you to specialize in offense, defense, or a balance of both. You can also equip several weapons at a time and save different loadouts for quick switching. While chips and weapons can be bought, you will need to find new pods in order to equip several of them at a time. These also can be equipped with different pod programs, including lasers and jammers. For folks with an online connection, the game lets you interact with the dead bodies of other players on the field. This allows you to revive them, get items, or even have a representation of them follow you around for a while. Death, by the way, has a Dark Souls quality to it. You basically need to make it back to your corpse without dying after you revive if you want to recover your plug-in chips. If you die before doing so, those chips end up going to chip heaven, and you'll have to reacquire them again. The fact that the game does not have an autosave mechanic means you will have to be mindful of risk when venturing out into the unknown or in dangerous territory. Save points are also sparse in the beginning, and you will need to find and unlock them the same way you do with field maps. Otherwise, be ready for long gaps between saves. As far as downsides, the game has its share of those too, some of them depending on your tastes. The character design, for example, can be good or bad depending on your love or tolerance for goth-made getups and bishonen pretty boys. Environments, meanwhile, can look beautiful at times, but also grainy and lacking detail in some areas. The open world sequence can also feel plodding and fetchy at times, especially during extended play. But this is often balanced out by the solid combat system and various options for progression that give you lots of stuff to do. The various mechanics and systems, although a key part of this game's identity, can be overwhelming for some as well, as there's plenty to digest. For folks struggling with the combat portion of that, Easy Mode allows you to dial down enemy difficulty and equip chips for skills like auto fire and auto evade if you're mostly interested in focusing on the game's story as opposed to the action. Hey, just because you can't make the burrito does not mean you can't eat it. So overall, Nier Automata features a mishmash of gaming mechanics that surprisingly work. Whether it be shmup shooting, 3D action fighting, or even open world adventuring, everything in the game comes together fluidly, like a 3-cheese dip. The art style won't be for everyone, and the adventuring can get fetchy at points. For fans of Japanese action and RPGs in their various forms, however, this is one treat worth imbibing in.